So I was sent over to Pakistan
to be a mule.
To be a mule and come back with copious amounts of lipsticks.
I was going to say
mascaras and God knows what.
I was taking 6 months off the job and was going to go explore Japan. And then Gurinder and I met and the world turned upside down. So I still haven't been. That's my big dream trip.
I would feel really bad for people if they never saw the Golden Temple and visited Amritsar themselves. You have not lived if you have not had Chinese food in Hong Kong.
Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Malaysian Royal, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guests are the dynamic duo, the wonderful Gurinder Chadha and her fabulous husband, Paul. They've been married for 30 years and worked together for as long. So I can't wait to hear how that works, because that is quite a feat in itself.
Certainly is. Can you see the scars?
You are behind so many of the most wonderful films, from Bend It Like Beckham, Angus, Thongs and Snogging, Perfect Snogging, I think it was. Yes. And one of my very favourite films, Bride and Prejudice. I was so in love with the man that was in that. I watched it week after week after week. I thought it was so wonderful. And your films are full of laughter and love, but also they touch on amazing subjects which are quite difficult, like race and colonisation and female empowerment. So I can't wait to hear all about that. But you were born in Kenya,
yes,
to Sikh parents.
Yes.
And you are American, but from Japanese and Basque descent.
That's right. Proper United Nations, this family.
So we're going to go a whole round the world, I think, aren't we? And actually, before we get into your travel secrets, perhaps you can both tell us a little bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the people that you've become. So let's start with you, Gurinder.
Well, I grew up in a very typical immigrant household in West London, the world of Bend It Like Beckham. You know, we didn't go on holidays. Holidays was either going to India to see relatives or go to Southend-on-Sea for the day. But the concept of holidays was not what I grew up with. And for my parents, it was not. If you're going to get on a plane, go and see family. You know, don't go to a place to look at the art and, you know, that. So I grew up with that. And it was only once I became a filmmaker that I had the opportunity to travel the world, initially for various film festivals and then promoting my films. And then I had the travel bug and started really traveling.
And you came from Kenya when you were a toddler, didn't you?
Yes.
So you are very British, really.
Very British, yeah. I don't have memories of Kenya as a child, as a baby. My earliest memories are of living in London, in Southall. And interestingly, my first sentence, what I used to say, my mum told me, was I would always say, I want likna, I want roti khana. So the I want was English, but the verb was always Punjabi. And that was my first. So I've been that fusion person really since I was so young. That idea of expressing myself as being both British and Indian and being bilingual and sort of bicultural and all these things. And I think that's what finds their way into my films. But at the same time, that certainly informs me when I go traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Paul?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles. And from a very early age, I remember I used to dream of traveling around the world. And I would dream of going and writing novels. And, you know, being from the States, my holidays, I didn't grow up around the film industry. My mother was a high school history teacher. So our trips were jumping in a station wagon with my mom and all her teacher girlfriends and going all around the States, which was great. But by the time, you know, I became 18 and started, you know, traveling more internationally, I got the bug and I've never lost it.
And your heritage being Japanese and Basque, did you go to Japan, or did you go to Spain, or?
This is one of my big things, is I've been wanting to go to Japan my whole life. We don't have a family home there. All my family's in California. So sadly, I haven't. I've been planning it forever. Just before Gurinder and I met in San Francisco, I was working in San Francisco, and we met. I was taking 6 months off the job and was going to go explore Japan. And then Gurinder and I met, and the world turned upside down. So I still haven't been. That's my big dream trip.
Oh, well, we shall sort that out for you, and we'll hear more about that, I'm sure. Let's get into your travel secrets then. So you may both have different ones, but I'm going to go to you first, Gurinder. What is the number one destination you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime, and why?
Hands down, I would say Amritsar in India, to visit the Golden Temple, because pictures, film do not convey the magnanimity of that place. You know, it is both spiritual, it is mind-blowing, it's beautiful, the sense of calm you get as you step into the compound. And there's nothing else like it anywhere in the world, really. So I would say I would feel really bad for people if they never saw the Golden Temple and visited Amritsar themselves in their lives. That's
a very, very nice tip. And what about you, Paul?
I love Amritsar as well, but I'm going to say one of the nice things about all the films we've made is, often you're traveling with a film or for work, whether it's to shoot something or research. And Gurinder took me to Kerala. We were researching this film called The Mistress of Spices that I directed. We wrote together. And Kerala just blew me away. I still love it. It's the southern tip of India, and it's got everything from, beaches to big, mountains and waterfalls and spice villages and
amazing
beautiful
food.
Backwaters, incredible food. The people are just so warm and friendly. It's like a third Christian, a third Muslim, a third Hindu. It's just a really egalitarian society and a beautiful, beautiful place.
And we stayed at a place called Spice Village, which is an eco resort. And so you really understood how they take ecology so seriously there. And we saw, for the first time in my life, I saw cardamom pods growing on a tree and pepper, which of course was more valuable than gold back in its time, in the day. So to just walk around the grounds and see these spices growing that you've always seen as dried, you know, in England, that actually was really amazing.
And that company is called, that's one we remember, it's called CGH Earth Experiences. And they're kind of eco resorts. It's not particularly fancy, but beautiful. Yeah. And as I said, you can go and have Ayurvedic massages, you can have music, incredible food, and they're it's so diverse, Kerala itself. You can literally spend one day by the beach, one day in the mountains, another day in the backwaters, which are just stunning. So
how was it filming there?
Filming was incredible because there's a big film culture. So really just very lush. It's different than the rest of India. It looks a little bit like, parts of it look like Hawaii or something. Like it's very green and beautiful. And my favorite bit are the backwaters. There's a bit where you take little boats all through these tiny canals, and you've got sort of ducklings swimming past you, and it's heaven.
Is that where your family are, in the Kerala area, or are they elsewhere?
No, so that's what's interesting. So my ancestors are from the North India. And so we are originally, so I did an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? And
did you? I must watch that.
And so we all come from Persia, basically. So from Persia, we came, eastwards and ended up in the foothills of the Himalayas. And so there are North Indians who kind of have my features and more European features. And then the original Indians are what we call Dravendrians, who are from the south. And they were from the time when Australia was connected to India. And so South Indians have an altogether different look. If you know A.R. Rahman, for example, like that, he's a different kind of look. And so in Kerala, They're again different there, right? Because of various influences, because they're a port, they're a sea state. For me, what was amazing is Kerala is actually a communist state politically, and it has something like 94% literacy. And so people are very educated. I think there are more newspapers there than anywhere in the world. Like it's a very literate society, and you see no beggars, and poverty is
very
not
different.
Visible in the way that it is in the north. That's what my experience of Kerala was. However, it is still very religious, as you said, in terms of Hindus and Christians. So there are churches and mosques and
amazing that it's actually that diverse, isn't it?
Very diverse. And actually, when we were there in Calicut, we found some very old synagogues because there was an old Jewish community there as well.
All living side by side nicely.
Yes.
Hopefully. Let's go on to the next one. What's your most unexpected travel experience?
So I had two. So when I was a student, I had taken some time off and I went to India. And in fact, that was the first time I went to India. And I ended up staying with some relatives in Amritsar. And this was a family with 3 daughters. And my uncle and auntie were, had this, everyone thought they were cursed because they had 3 daughters. And it was all about how do we get these girls married? There was so much tension. And these girls were hilarious. They were like, really very go-getting and wanting to go out to work and create their own businesses. And everyone would be like, no, you
got to get married.
And why your dad's so rich? Why is he sending you out to work? And so I jumped into this world and I was like, what? But that was the basis of my film Bride and Prejudice.
I was going to say, it sounds exactly like Bride and Prejudice.
So that years later, I came to be inspired by my trip there. But these girls, they said to me, you're here, you have a British passport, you have to do this for us. You have to go across the border into Pakistan and do shopping for us. Because at that time, it was the 80s in India. India was closed. So there were no imports, far cry from the tariffs and everything that we hear about today. But there were no foreign imports. There was no Coca-Cola. It was Campa Cola. All the makeup was local. Everything was all locally produced, and that's how India kind of developed so fast. Anyway, nobody like these girls wanted local makeup.
They wanted you over the border.
Exactly. So I was sent over to Pakistan
to be a mule.
To be a mule and come back with copious amounts of lipsticks.
I was going to say
mascaras and God knows what. And so I had never been to Pakistan. I was like worried because I'm going by myself. And there is a border ceremony, which is another thing that if you go to Amritsar, you must see the border ceremony between India and Pakistan. It's the border between Lahore and Amritsar are the nearest cities. And they do a ceremony there every night, the flag lowering ceremony. And people from both sides, India and Pakistan, go there and cheer and everything. But anyway, I literally walked across because they had a friend on the other side who'd come to meet me. So I
with
sort of
your
waved
suitcase.
Goodbye to India and the Indians on this side and literally walked across to Pakistan. And the doctor there who met me and she waved to the Indian and said, I've got her, it's okay, everything's fine. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a movie. And then we ended up in Lahore and I was amazed because I'd been in India for about, at that point, 3 months, I think. And as soon as I went into Pakistan, it was American billboards everywhere, all kinds of advertising, everything that I had not seen for 3 months in India.
How extraordinary. I did not even know that had happened.
It was absolutely mind-blowing. I was like, wow. And funnily enough, so I got the lipsticks, came back. But the other time that happened to me was when we went to Hanoi. So we were visiting Hanoi. I have a friend who works at the World Bank, and her husband, Alan, also works in development. And Alan and I were at university together. And so we went they said, you must come to Hanoi. So we went, and I was amazed again, because, I mean, this was much later, 2001 or 2, I think. But everybody wore the same color blue. Everyone was wearing blue. Everyone had the same sort of trousers and tunics, and everyone was on bicycles. And you got a real feeling of what communist, Vietnam, Saigon, whatever, would have looked like. And I was like, it was like walking into history. And there was one billboard that I saw, and that was for Samsung. It was a massive billboard, and that was the only one in the whole of Hanoi.
That's amazing.
Amazing. And the people were very slight, I remember, but very industrious and very healthy, because the breakfast, of course, is pho. So it's a soup, a lovely broth with loads of fresh herbs in it and vegetables.
Yeah,
and that was their breakfast. And then it went on from there, really healthy food.
That's such an interesting take on both of those places. How unexpected.
Yes.
What about you, Paul?
Well, mine was when I was 18, I was dying to go and backpack around Europe. Like, I dreamt of doing this. So I saved, worked all year at my first year at uni, saved my money, and one of my best friend in LA, we were going to go together, and we're going to get Interrail passes for 2 months, and I was so excited. And at the last minute, he couldn't get off work, and I was like, well, I'm going. This is my dream. I've been saving for this. We're going to do $10 a day. I'm going to make it last as long as I can. And what was so unexpected was just the kindness of people. I met the most incredible people. Like, I didn't realize, you could take a night train and wake up in another country, and I'd meet someone and they go, oh, when you come back through Frankfurt, come and stay with us, or Switzerland or Italy. And I just was constantly surprised by how nice and kind and welcoming people were. And I think it really gave me a huge, I'm always quite trusting and tend to be friendly and open, but the fact that people who just met me would say, come to my family, come to my house, come and be at my, sometimes with my family or my friends, and just kind of take me in. I just love, and it was the best trip, because it really gave me a lot of faith in people.
What Paul hasn't told you is that he had a budget of like 3 francs, was it, at that time?
Well, no, depending on the country. It started up as about $10. Then it went down to about 5 or 4.
Now he was at $3 a day, I remember, in France. And because we've been back subsequently, and he talks about how he only had enough money to buy a baguette. And that was it. And he'd be eating a baguette, and people would feel sorry for him and give him like a tomato or a bit of cheese.
But it was by choice. It was like the best trip ever. I wasn't like.
How long did it actually last? Your money? Did you stay for the whole time?
I stayed the whole time.
Well done.
I stayed the whole time. But like I said, by the end there was nothing left. And
which was your favorite country?
Oh goodness, that was hard, because I loved France. I loved Italy. Greece was incredible, because you could sleep on the beach, so I didn't, you didn't have to pay anything for that. I loved it. And to this day, whenever we're in a beautiful hotel or a beautiful place, a villa somewhere, I always think I really appreciate it, because I've roughed it, and I've roughed it many, many times over the years, and I've enjoyed roughing it. I haven't been suffering.
I think you need to have both so that you appreciate it, don't you?
Yes. I remember in India being thrilled at this room in Goa that was costing me £1.50 a night, but it was right on the beach, and it had a massive bathroom and shower. And, nothing on the walls, and sort of concrete. But at the time, I remember being so thrilled with that bargain.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'd never step foot in a place like that.
I don't think you could even find anywhere that would cost £1.50. I think the cheapest hotel I ever stayed in was in Thailand, in Phuket, and it was £3 a night. It was called Pop Cottage, and it was right on the beach. And I was so thrilled, because it had air conditioning.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. It was really nice. £3 a night.
Wow.
Gosh. With AC. Amazing.
Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, I don't think. This is very hard, because I'm sure you're both very positive and very nice. So what is your most overrated or underrated travel experience? I bet you won't be able to say something this.
I'm not going to be negative. No, it's my California positivity. My kids, our twins, say I have toxic positivity, but
I think
I'll
that's
take it.
wonderful.
I'll take
that
it.
any day.
I will take it. So you're right. I can't. I was going to do the most underrated place, and the country that I love was we went to Iceland a few years ago with Gurinder and our twins, who were quite young at the time, maybe 9, 10, and then my mother came over from LA. And it was just a quick break. It was like a 4-day trip, but it was just the most magical place. And I loved how alive it was and kind of volcanic. And, you could smell the sulfur everywhere. And Gurinda's a big geography nerd. So she loved, we saw tectonic plates. And then
we actually saw the plate where the earth is, where Iceland's getting bigger, So the plate's shifting like this in this big park.
It was just stunning. It was, and what I loved most was we would go to these local, little spas, pools. So not the fancy ones, but just the little local neighborhood ones. And what I loved is you would be sitting in these pools with 3 or 4 generations of families, and everybody kind of chatting and being friendly. And I thought Iceland was spectacular.
They were hot water springs that were on every street corner.
What are they called? Those geysers.
Geysers
that spout up.
That was amazing, watching the geysers. Someone was boiling eggs in one of them.
So many people on this podcast have said Iceland is fantastic. I've never been, but people love it. Did you go in the summer?
Treat. No, that was the other thing. I think it was in February.
Oh, wow.
So, people want to see the Northern Lights, and we did a bit of that. And we saw some, which was lovely. But actually the most lovely thing was just the kind of normal, local stuff with just simple, like I said, these beautiful, thermal tubs everywhere you go, and just it feels very kind of family and wholesome and very humble. Everybody was very friendly, but it's not there's nothing showy about it, or just people get on with it in a lovely way.
And I was invited to Norway, to Oslo, to talk to some theatre students once. And I thought, I've never been to Oslo. I've never been to, let me go, let's have a look. And it was winter. And what was incredible was it never got light. And that was something really weird. Very physiologically weird for your body, because you'd wake up and it was sort of dark. And then around about 12 o'clock, it would be like it normally is at sort of, say, 7 in the morning in England in the winter. So it would try to lighten a bit. And then an hour later, it was like what it normally is, say, 5, 6 o'clock for us in the winter. So they had a slight lightening, but it was still sort of dark. And so the whole day was dark.
They must be very lacking in vitamin D.
Very, yes.
Because we're bad enough here.
But that's why they eat a lot of fish, right?
Yes.
So I thought that, that was interesting. But I was not impressed with the food, I have to say.
Really?
So, it was...
Smorgasbord was not for you.
It was all kinds of soused fish and very pickly based.
Yeah, herring, pickled.
And even the cheese, I remember there was this big block of weird cheeses and stuff. But
that actually takes us beautifully into the food and drink question, which is, what do you like eating? Where do you like eating? What's been your favourite meal?
Well, I have to say I'm a huge Chinese food enthusiast.
Are you?
Yes, above Indian. I would say Chinese is the food that I always crave, and even when I travel, one of the things I love to do is have Chinese food in different countries because it's so different. Chinese food in India is hilarious because it's sort of Indian food, really, with noodles. Chinese food in Paris is amazing because it's beautifully prepared. The vegetables are beautifully prepared and very, very small and appetizing and fragrant and very different to here. Chinese food in America is there's just too much of it.
Everywhere.
And it's just too much. And it's like you order one thing and you go, well, I'm never going to eat the other 2 dishes. So that's over the top. But you have not lived if you have not had Chinese food in Hong Kong. I mean, and we've been to mainland China too, but we had the most amazing dim sum in Hong Kong. And we were in this huge restaurant that our Hong Kong distributor had taken us to. And she said, what would you like? And so we said what our usual favorites were. Then she ordered 1,000-year-old egg and all this other stuff. And every time we ordered something, she would order another 3 dishes or something, because she said it's bad luck to have even dishes. It's got to be odd. It's got to be an odd number. And so like this meal went on for ages. However, it was the most beautiful, delicately made dim sum I've ever had.
Do you remember the name of the restaurant?
Do you know, I would like to say that I think most places in Hong Kong
would be the same. Because this wasn't anything particularly fancy. I just remember it was on 3 floors and it was huge. But the food was just incredible.
It's terrible we can't remember. Yeah, it was somewhere in Kowloon and the food was incredible. And I think you got the numbers wrong, because 8 is such a lucky number.
Oh, did I
so
get
maybe
that
it's the
one?
opposite.
So it's
maybe
the odd.
it
Maybe it's
had to be
the
even.
odd. Yeah.
But whatever it was, I've never eaten so well and so much food.
And the other thing, though, that I do remember, I'd never been to Hong Kong, and I remember having my breath literally taken away when the first time I saw the harbour with the buildings coming up right to the edge, at night. That view is... It's amazing.
We look after the peninsula in Hong Kong, which is one of the oldest hotels. It's absolutely fantastic. And we're recording this in the peninsula in London. They have the most amazing Chinese restaurant here.
I have been to that peninsula. Yes,
Canton
I remember
Blue
it.
here is as good as the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
So you have to go.
That's
your birthday treat. That's your birthday treat.
Well, I do remember visiting the peninsula in Hong Kong as well, actually, because we did some interviews and in various places. And you're right, the fancy restaurants are incredible. It's an altogether different version of Chinese to what we have here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But also the street food is so good too.
Yes.
It really is. Is that your go-to food as well?
I'm a big foodie, so I love Chinese, I love Japanese, Mexican, I love American, like comfort food. I like all these things. But I was going to say the thing that I really love is Gurinder's a very good cook, so I love Indian food, but proper home cooked Indian food. And when you go to, I think Indian food in the UK is incredible. But when you go to India, there's one particular place called Bukhara, which is in Delhi. And it's just a fairly simple restaurant, but they're known for having this dal that never stops cooking. So it's been cooking for years and years and years.
The pot.
It's literally this enormous pot, and it just doesn't ever stop. And you eat it with like this family naan, family garlic naan, which is like as big as a bathtub. It's huge. And it's just the most delectable comfort food,
They actually sell that dal in cans as well now, don't they? But it's the colour, it's the urad dal, it's the black dal as we call it. So it's very creamy and very rich. There's a lot of butter in it and cream and then they also do really nice grills. So lots of tikkas and they do a hara chicken, which is mint and coriander.
It's my favourite food is Indian food.
Is it?
I love Indian food.
Then you have to visit Bukhara.
So much.
Bukhara is great. And the only other thing I'll do very quick is in Bombay, because I love Bombay is such a great city too, and with great food. And my favourite thing to always eat in Bombay is vada pav, which is basically just a roll, cut in half, and then inside is kind of a fried potato. And then it's just drenched in chutney and onions and chilies. And it's, there's these stalls that are famous all around the world for like making the best vada pav. And it's the most delicious, spicy, gorgeous thing to eat.
It's very hard going to India because all the street food looks amazing, right? And we when we come from the West, we're all like, oh no, we better not eat that. We'll get dysentery and whatever. So what they've started doing is catering to tourists.
Also, it's just fried potatoes. It's not like it's meat.
No,
it's fairly safe.
Yes, but the famous place is if you're in the know, you get off the plane, you go straight in Mumbai. You go to a place called Elko Market. Okay, it's called Elko Market, And there you have pani puri, which is those little fluffy balls with the tamarind spice water, right? And you just stand on the street, and they just keep feeding you those. I've actually got a picture up to give you of that. And you stand on the street, you eat those, and all the liquid is made with mineral water. So it's fine. You get off the plane, you go straight there. And that's what a lot of people do. They go straight to Elko Market.
I'm going to do that next time I go to India. My sister got married in India, and everyone in our party was very ill, except for me. And after being there for 2 weeks, I thought, I think I better eat street food because I haven't been to the loo for 2 weeks. But I didn't. I was very good because I had curry for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yes.
I just thought, I'm not going to do salads. I'm not going to do anything that they were doing. Yes. They were all very ill.
Well, one of the hotels we like to stay in Delhi is the Taj Mansingh. Yeah. And I mean, breakfast buffet, my goodness me. Like, how many types of curry would you like for breakfast?
It's so good.
But so fresh. They bring these fluffy puris out and an onion and pea curry to have with the fresh puris, fresh pickle, yogurt, homemade yogurt. Like, now that's one breakfast sorted. Then on the other side, they're making fresh stuffed parathas with cauliflower and peas and potatoes, and then you've got that, over there, and then you've got all the other
you could just omelettes. Stay all day eating.
Yes, an Indian omelette. Oh my God, Indian fluffy omelette. My God, that's something to behold, because that's coriander, chilies, onions, slightly spicy.
Delicious.
The only place I could say that's kind of remotely like India in that sense. I mean, I love Thai food too, but when we went to Malaysia, that was mind blowing because all the stalls and all the hawkers, they do, they make one thing, but they make it so well. And it can be a tiny little cart. It can be wherever you are. You can be next to a petrol station and it's the most amazing thing you've ever eaten. But it's so fresh, that it's safe and it's hot and it's just. That was shocking how great the food was in Malaysia.
So we were invited by Her Highness Sultana, who's the Queen of Malaysia at the time. Wonderful. And so we had got to know her here through a friend. So she invited us to Malaysia. So I think she was quite appalled that we went out to hawker stalls. Because she was, her cooks were making us, they were making us, her chefs were making us lavish meals that, again, were non-stop. I mean, it was like, as soon as that door opened, you were like, oh my God, what's coming? And by about 20 dishes, you were like, please don't let anyone else come through that door, because we were looked after so well. But as Paul says, if you're a foodie, you have to go to Malaysia. I mean, that's it, because the coming together of Chinese influences, Indian influences, a bit of European influence too. Like, it's all come together in that cuisine.
I loved it when I went. I went to a wonderful hotel called the Datai. Have you heard of that, on the beach? Absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. You would love it there.
We were in the Royal residence.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I don't think I can top that. I'm sorry to tell you. What is your top travel tip? What's your top travel tip, Paul? My
tip is just to smile, smile and talk to people. I know, again, I'm going to sound like an old hippie, but it's true. Just talk to people and be open and don't plan things too much, just go with the flow. It's nice to sort of, have, a few places you might want to go, but just be open, because you never know what's going to come your way. You can always discover something. And those have always been my favorite trips, not knowing so much about a place and just going with the flow and just being surprised, discovering places I love.
Surprised and delighted. What about you?
Well, one of the things that I always like when I go traveling is I'm always intrigued by the people who are serving me, the staff. Where do they live? What do they do? What are their shops like? So I find myself going to markets and seeing what the locals are buying, seeing what the locals are eating. I love that. And I remember we stayed in a very fancy place in the Maldives once, and everything, was perfect, beautiful turquoise ocean, and we had a jacuzzi, it was lovely. But you had to stay on this side of the barriers, and you weren't allowed to go on the other side. And one day, Paul and I got bikes, and we decided to just go exploring. And we went through, and on the other side was where all of the staff lived, right? And all the children and the schools. And it was actually really nice to see that side. And they had a little local shop. And it was great to go in there and see what the locals buy and you know, all the different foods. And I loved that experience of seeing both. And I always enjoy that. And our most recent trip is we just came back from New York because our son had started university there. But we decided we've never been to the Hamptons.
Oh.
So let us take a little trip to the Hamptons. And it was, you know, very posh and moneyed, as you would expect. A lot of the staff were young, you know, students and African American, you know, and I was slightly uncomfortable with that, you know, in places like Sag Harbor. And then we ended up going to Montauk.
Oh, yes.
Which was
lovely.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's much more laid back.
Much more laid back, and felt like it was a sort of secret hideaway that you know, artists and authors and people have been going to, you know, for 100 years, kind of. I felt that history there. They had thrift shops and they had beautiful cafes and
it's much more real, isn't it?
Much more real, yeah. And it was wonderful. We were sat having sushi actually on the edge, right on the edge of Long Island, basically. And we were in this little port area in Montauk, and then this boat started coming past, and we could hear them. You know, it was full of tourists, and as it got closer, we heard "Sweet Caroline," ba ba ba. It was a bunch of English people. on the edge of the world at Montauk.
You can't get away from them.
But I liked that. It was you can travel wherever you want in the world. But you know what?
Well, talking about Bend It Like Beckham, basically every football match now ends with Sweet Caroline, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, literally.
It does.
They've really adopted it as their anthem, haven't they?
Yes. And it's a great song.
That
right?
is a great song. And he's great. Neil Diamond must be just so happy about it.
So happy, yes.
Hilarious. I asked you both about your most poignant travel memory. Can you tell us about your most poignant travel memory?
A few summers ago, we had an experience where we were staying down near San Diego, and which I was trying to teach my son how to surf. You know, I'm a beach kid. I grew up on the beach, and I love it. And I'm happiest barefoot, you know, shorts, playing beach volleyball. So we were somewhere near San Diego, and we decided to go to San Clemente, which is a famous beach for surfing. And it was a ways away. You know, it was a pretty good trek away, but it's famous, and the Beach Boys sung about it, and it's a great spot. So we drove there, and we got there, and two things happened. One, I forgot the bathing suits. I don't know how, but I forgot our bathing suits. And two, I put on my shorts or something at the last minute, and my wallet wasn't in the car. My wallet wasn't there. And this is so, it's not, we don't normally do that. But so we had no swimming costumes and no money. And so, young children who were both irritated, who were like, we just want to go swimming, we want to go surfing. So we were like, okay, let's figure this out. And so we pulled up to like a TK Maxx. I think it was a TK Maxx or whatever. And we were like, okay, let's scrounge around the car for whatever dollars and coins we could find. So we scrounged together some money, and we went into the store.
This is coins for parking. Yeah. So quarters.
So literally we pulled together nothing, $12, whatever we could find. And I was like, let's just go and we'll go to the clearance section and just buy something. The main thing is we're here, we're not driving all the way back. Yeah. Let's just go for it. So as we were talking, my son and daughter.
We found a swimming costume for our daughter for $6. So we were like, this is great. And for Ronick, we found something really cheap as well, our son. But then our son was hungry.
he was hungry and he was going, but okay, now we have this, but how are we going to eat? What are we going to do? And I was like, we'll figure it out. We're here. We'll make the most of it. We'll go to the store and whatever money we've got, we'll do something.
I want pizza. Why can't I have a pizza?
And as we were talking about this, I was saying, let's just I was being a typical Californian. I was like, let's just make the best of it. We're here. It's gorgeous outside.
This is the money we have. We've got to make it work with this.
And so we went up to buy the swimming costumes. And at the till, this lovely woman came up and said, I just want you to know I heard you talking to your kids, and I really love what you're trying to teach them. I love how you guys are sort of trying to get them to learn to live on a budget and the lessons. And she said, here, take this. And she gave us some cash. And we said, oh no. I said, you can't do that. I said, that's really kind of you. But I was tearing up. I said, you can't, don't worry. We're going to be fine. We'll survive. And she went, no, I really appreciate it. And then we said, okay, well, give us your address. We're here because we were promoting a movie. So I said, we've got a movie. We're going to invite you to them. And then she was like, oh my gosh. But it was so beautiful of her. And she made such an effort to say, I really like, what you're trying to teach.
She was a teacher. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, she ended up being
a teacher. She was a teacher. And so we were so touched by this moment. And so I called the local paper, the San Clemente Times, because we didn't take her name or anything. And so I called, and I remember them thinking she must be, who the hell is this woman, But me being a journalist, I trained as a journalist, so that's always with you. So I called the San Clemente paper, and I left a voicemail, I remember, and I just said, look, this is who I am. This just happened to us in your local branch in San Clemente, and this lovely woman did this, and we are so appreciative. But we don't know who she is, but we want to thank her. The journalist called me back and said, have you got a picture? And we were at the beach at that point. So we took a picture and we sent it to her. Next thing, it was in the San Clemente Times. The whole story.
That's so lovely.
It was such a nice, and it's totally unexpected. And
lovely. I bet she was very grateful that you actually did do that. Because she wasn't doing it for any recognition or anything. She was doing it.
She was so pure.
So
she was what it was. It was the moment where Paul was explaining to our son why he couldn't have pizza, and why we didn't have enough money to get pizza. So she didn't know we were successful filmmakers. She just saw a family struggling with food versus shopping, and just through the kindness of her heart. I mean, she was giving me the $20. Do you remember? And I was like, I was confused. I'm like, why is she giving me money? I don't understand.
I say your son said, yay, we can have pizza.
Kind of. Yeah, he was not as moved as obviously me and Paul are.
Oh, that's such a lovely story. That's such a lovely story. Have you got one?
I know I've banged on about Amritsar. But I have to say, going to the Golden Temple at night is really something. I know this because I got off a plane and I went straight there. And whenever I make a movie, I always try and go there, especially if it's in India, because, that's where you go to give thanks, And going there at night is incredible because the gold on the temple is just glittering in a completely different way and reflected in the water that surrounds it. And then there's marble walkways around it, and people just sit there quietly, cross-legged. And that, the antiquity of the place as well, really gets to you. And you, for one moment, you just feel like a very small part of something much bigger, And I'm sure people have that when they go to the Vatican.
Yeah.
We were recently in the Vatican, and I felt, in some of the churches I went to, I sort of felt that feeling as well. So I think regardless of what religion it is of the country that you're visiting, same thing happened in Turkey. We went to the mosque in Istanbul, with
the Blue Mosque.
Yes, the Blue Mosque.
Or the Hagia Sophia, either of them. They're just exquisite, aren't they?
Absolutely blown away. And I think whenever you travel, for me, the poignancy of visiting ancient shrines that are still places of worship helps connect me and everyone else to an ancestral past that is surely what traveling is about. It's connecting us to history of ourselves and other people to show how we're all connected and how we are all one. And that is really the beauty of travel for me, is to connect me to the world.
And on that note, I mean, that's the most amazing summary of what travel should be for and what it's all about. I'm not going to let you go, though, yet, because I need to know what you're both doing next and where you're going next. Where you're going next we'll do on the travel side, but what's next for both of you? You've got some really exciting projects coming up. We
do indeed. Well, being independent filmmakers, we always have about 20 projects on the go. So that'll be a separate podcast. But we are very excited because it's been 23 years since Bend It Like Beckham.
And can't believe that.
We are going back and exploring that world and those characters 23 years later. Where are they now? And of course, the whole game has changed. The women's game has changed. We've been part of that change. So it's really interesting for us to go back and look at what we created then and look at the world today and see, how that's going to work. Obviously, we have Christmas Karma coming out.
I can't wait. I think I'm the only person who watches Christmas movies from the 1st of November. I won't allow myself to do it in October because it's too early. But from the 1st of November, I watch Christmas movies.
That's great because we open November 14th.
Yay! And I'm going to come.
So
how exciting.
That's our big exciting thing right now. And so we will be traveling the world promoting the movie.
Did you film that here or in India?
It's filmed in London mainly, and the story is an updated version of A Christmas Carol. So it's Charles Dickens, but my Scrooge is a very wealthy, very mean Indian businessman who doesn't like poor people and refugees, and he has to learn empathy along the way. But there is a twist, which is when the ghost of Christmas past takes him back to his childhood. We find ourselves in 1972 in Uganda, and Idi Amin is about to expel him and all his family and friends who become refugees. And he comes to Britain as a refugee. And so it's suddenly the story shifts and changes, and you realize that this man who experienced quite a lot of hardship and racism when he first came, he now believes that money is the savior. Money gives him status. Money will always, represent who he is. So it's a different take on Scrooge.
Sounds fantastic. Very topical
yes.
And wonderful. Can't wait to watch that.
So it's a musical.
Oh, is it?
So it's very feel good as well.
As all your wonderful films are.
And it's Gary Barlow has done the music along with Shaznay Lewis and Nitin Sawhney, and there's a Bhangra Christmas song in it. So it's I hope it's a festive film that will speak to people, but also for families, it will give people lots to talk about, but also ultimately, what is a Christmas Carol about? What was Dickens saying? Be kind. Yeah. Be kind, because people come through all kinds of circumstances in this world, and you can't judge people. And that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just, you have to use the season. Be kind.
That's fantastic.
And Gurinder's done such a brilliant job. I mean, I know she's my wife, but I have to say this was such a passion project, and everything I love about Gurinder and working with Gurinder is part of this movie. So it's full of joy and color and laughter and poignancy, and it's all there. And I think I hope, touch wood, it becomes a Christmas classic because it has
I'm sure it will.
all those ingredients.
I'm sure, first of all, people love Christmas films, but secondly, you've done so many films which have become classics. And Bend It Like Beckham, the reunion or whatever you're going to be called, aren't you going to be doing it around the World Cup, the female World Cup?
Yes, we hope to get it out by then, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And will you have the same cast members reincarnate?
You'll have to see.
We'll see. Before I let you go, I asked you to bring a photograph or a couple of photographs. Can you just show us the photos and tell us about them?
So one of the photos is of us in the Maldives, Paul, myself, and the kids. And the first time we saw sharks, and we were delighted and scared. But then we couldn't miss the photo opportunity, so we decided to take a selfie with a shark.
Did you get back in the water after you'd seen sharks?
No, we were on a jetty, and they all came to this jetty at a particular time of day, and so that people said, "This is where you have to come." And so we all sort of laid down on the jetty and they held the camera up, and the shark was behind us.
But what happened was we would spend the day at this place called Turquoise Beach. We called it Turquoise, which was just magical. So the four of us just, floating and just loving the fish, and it was just, none of us had been in the Maldives. So it was gorgeous. So we did that, and our kids made friends, local, people around. And then we would do this. Sometimes we'd go and feed the sharks at sunset. And then the next day we were walking back on this jetty, and our daughter would decided to do a gymnastics balance beam and fell over the edge, 20 feet or 30 feet down into the water, exactly where they would feed the sharks. But she's such a warrior. She just, kind of got up, hung on to the side of the jetty, and somebody went down and picked her up. But she was not scared. She was just like, oh yeah, she felt a bit silly for falling in, but it was hilarious.
I mean, we've been all over the world, as I knew we would. It's been such a joy and delight to hear all your travel secrets. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. And it's been a
really
delight
lovely
to revisit all these places with you, actually.
Thank
So
you.
we've been on holiday again here at the Peninsula in London.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.